Some major primaries are happening today, Tuesday, May 19th, and one stands out above the rest, showing just how important leftist momentum is at this very moment. This is Chris Rabb, and he is running for Congress in Pennsylvania's 3rd District, which represents some sections of Philadelphia. It is one of the most Democratic seats in the country, so why are we talking about it? Well, Chris Rabb is a progressive. He's AOC-backed. He is, leftist all the way, but he is facing some major opposition from centrist Democrats across the country, including Cory Booker, who are propping up his opponent, Sharif Street, in this race, because now it is a national story. So today we're going to look at Chris Rabb, his opponent, Sharif Street, as well as another very important primary happening today out in Kentucky with a very familiar face. But we'll get to that a little bit later. First things first, let's take a look together at this short segment from an interview that Chris Rabb has done about the state of the Democratic Party and his progressive ideology. All right, here we go.
I think the real question is the Democratic Party prepared to listen to the base that demands this progressivism? Because what many people are calling progressive are pretty much standard things in other nations where universal health care is the thing, where there's no notion of health care insurance. It's just health care, a living wage for all, social housing, a federal job guarantee. All of these things are things that are commonplace in other industrialized nations, but not.
Yes, exactly. This is what progressives want. We just want the bare minimum that is given to people in other countries. Okay, let's continue. Just immediately, great messaging right there. We are not leftists like crazy. We're not asking for a lot. We are actually asking for what other countries have. We're not radicals. We should be, broadly understood, and our politics is broadly very popular. So let's continue.
Not in the richest country in world history, and so there is a cry from people in our base who do not see themselves in conventional campaigns, which is why I've always run a grassroots campaign. I have over 6,000 donors, small donors. 90% of my donor base are small donors. That means folks who've given less than $200. Those are the people who I'm listening to and to.
Always a good sign when a campaign has a bunch of small donors like that. It just shows the grassroots efforts and their mobilization actually is supported by the people, not by corporations.
Who hold me to account, and what they're asking for are basic things that our government should be able to provide, particularly since we know we have the money because we're already spending that money overseas for another endless war nobody wants. And so to that point, if progressive means healthcare as a human right, housing as a human right, a living wage for all of these things are not considered radical anymore, but they are considered radical when you look at it through the lens of establishment politics. So the critique is more about when are we going to have something more than status quo politicians who are compromised by corporate interests and actually listen to the people who are closest to the pain.
Exactly. Such a good video, such a good, encompassing video of who Chris Rabb is, a progressive guy who's against the system, who wants to buck corporations out of politics, super, super strong. And there's so many reasons to like Chris Rabb as a candidate. His policy is extremely popular. He wants an arms embargo of Israel. He wants the right to return for Palestinians, end the Cuban blockade, anti-data center guy, universal childcare, abolish ICE. He already talked about Medicare, end the war on drugs, reparations, natural grocery stores, and supports Mumia Abu Jamal, right? It is so good. He is a great candidate. Very left-leaning progressive guy, AOC endorsed, and his policies are popular, right? This is a chart of Zoran's policies that Zoran ran on, but many of them are also Chris Rabb's policies, right? And the blue is the people who say they support them, and the red is people who say they oppose them. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Zoran Mamdani's policies, and therefore a lot of Chris Rabb's, they don't agree on everything, nobody should, but they're very popular, including raising tax on a corporation, speeding up the approval process to build affordable housing, penalizing landlords who significantly increase rent or violate tenant protections, adding a 2% tax on income over $1 million. Yeah. These are popular policy positions, and it would be just an endorsement of this, left-leaning momentum cause that we have right now if Chris Rabb was able to pick up this primary win, because whoever wins the primary in this race, they're winning the general, right? It is such a massive, swing for the Democrats in this district. It's Philadelphia, right? It's a super, super Democratic city. But moving on, Chris Rabb is a Pennsylvania politician. So here's another very popular not popular. Not popular. There's another very well-known Pennsylvania politician, John Fetterman. Fetterman, our boy Johnny, look at him. Oh, John Fetterman, look at you. Well, Chris Rabb has a few things to say about John Fetterman, and he says this: the first thing to understand about Senator Fetterman is that he is an asshole. That's all I could say, but I'm going to continue. He engaged in populist cosplay at the expense of the people. It has nothing to do with him having a stroke. It's because he's an asshole. I wasn't impressed with him ever. The fact that when he was running, he was for marriage equality. He wanted to legalize adult use cannabis. He believed in prison reform. I'm like, yeah, you're supposed to be for those things. You're a Democrat. That's not particularly impressive in Philadelphia. A lot of people meeting me for the first time say, I like what you're doing, but how do I know you're not going to break my heart too? In reference to Fetterman. My response to them is, Fetterman had tweets. I have receipts. I have a decade of legislative track record. I'm on the record on every issue you can imagine. Oh man, I wish every single Democratic politician in the country could just say, the first thing to understand about Senator Fetterman is that he's an asshole. Because, it's so good. It's so good. If you've watched the channel, you know that I have a grudge against Fetterman. I'm not a fan of the guy. And me and Chris Rabb are in agreement on that, which is really nice to see. But moving on here, we're going to look at opposing candidate Sharif Street. And he had this to say about Chris Rabb being endorsed by, people across the country. Here, let's take a look.
He say that the problem is that I got regular folks that are committee people that are in the neighborhood, you are talking to their neighbors, and guess what? They just decided to go with a bunch of negative ads on me. The socialists from New York. You know what that means? They're doing it because after spending millions of dollars against me, they know that if they don't do something, they're going to lose this election because
the socialists in New York. Is he referring to AOC? Is there a problem with having an AOC endorsement? Is there a problem with AOC? What's interesting? Interesting. That's all. I'll just say interesting.
The power of the people is more powerful than the people in power. They can say that we're the machine candidate, but when they talk about the machine, they're talking about committee people. They're talking about people that live in neighborhoods. There are days that because so many of you are posting me, so many of you are talking about me, that we are having more people see us than they are, and they've got billions of dollars in TV ads.
Billions! They've got billions with a B, billions of dollars in TV ads. Wow, Chris Rabb, $1 billion in TV ads. He's the most well-funded politician in world history. Billions in TV ads. Dude, what are you talking about here, man? That's the part that I really wanted to get to. Huh? Like, what are you talking about? Billions in TV ads? No, right? They just have good momentum. They have a popular policy position. And I'm sure that there's a lot of things that I agree with Sharif Street on. But Chris Rabb is the guy that's actually anti-establishment, where Sharif Street is supported by the establishment, including very, centrist candidates like Cory Booker, who spoke at a rally for Sharif Street. Let's take a look.
I am not confused. I am not distracted. I am not deflected. I am not detoured. I know the way to go. There is only one way, and that's street. I say one way, you say street. One way. Street. One way. Street. One way. Street.
Good line. Honestly, one-way street is a really good line. But is that what you want in politics? A one-way street? I don't think so. But also, beside the point, Cory Booker is an institutional Democrat. And Sharif Street is out here saying he's not the institution, he's not the machine, and yet he's being endorsed by machines. Cory Booker, by the way, famously said that he didn't want to get involved in the New York primaries and the New York election for mayor, so he did not endorse Zohran Mamdani. In fact, he decided to stay out of it. He thought, New Yorkers should, they should stick with New Yorkers and, figure out their own elections. And yet here he is happy to support the more moderate candidate in this race. Very, very interesting, that he throws his support behind this candidate. But at this very same rally, it became very apparent that the society and the people in the town and city are not vibing with Cory Booker being there. This is a protest that happened during a Sharif Street event that Cory Booker was at. He's really, really running for the guy.
Don't forget that you come over a way that with tears.
Senator Booker, why did you vote for the Lincoln Riley bill? I'm from West Virginia. Why did you vote for the Lincoln Riley bill?
Somebody that knows what it is to stand up against the heckle and cruelty and violence. If you are here, hush your mouth. All right. Some somebody that knows what it is.
And then he continues on. So there's the protest footage that happened right there of these two gentlemen standing up, speaking out, and also talking about the Laken Riley bill, which is a immigration enforcement bill that has been touted for actually being not beneficial at all, but would remove some constitutional protections for immigrants who immigrated into the United States without proper documentation. And a lot of immigration organizations have said that the entire bill is either like unnecessary, or it harms actually the system, or it'll create massive backlogs. So it is a good question to ask why a Democratic senator would support a bill that was largely unnecessary and anti-immigrant. So interesting call there for sure. But next up, I want to take a look at this. Yeah, this is the crowd for Cory Booker. Jam-packed crowd. Very clearly not, right? Not a jam-packed crowd in the least. Just absolutely nuts. But we are we're getting close to the end here. Also, Chris Rabb, endorsed by AOC. Great messaging. Amazing, candidate here. But I want to talk a little bit about, and also Chris Rabb, he is expected to win, but that doesn't mean that, you should, throw in the towel and be like, oh, he's going to win, I'm not going to vote. Very important. But I want to talk a little bit about this. AIPAC not endorsing, but giving Ed Gallerin $15 million to try to unseat Thomas Massie, who the only reason that Thomas Massie is even in the running to be unseated is because he was, wants the Epstein files to be released and he doesn't want to send more money to Israel. So Donald Trump handpicked a candidate, Ed Gallerin, right here, and now he's been given $15 million. This is the most expensive House race in history, with $35 million being spent on this one House race alone, all so that Republicans can prove that they can just buy elections. And Thomas Massie will say a quick word about that.
Well, you see, and you've actually said this week that your vote is a referendum on whether Israel gets to buy seats in Congress. What did you mean by that?
Well, the RJC, AIPAC, and Miriam Adelson and Paul Singer, they're all part of the Israeli lobby, and that's where all the money comes from. And it will be a referendum on foreign policy, whether Israel gets to dictate that by, bullying members of Congress. And I'm the one
exactly. So he's one of the most outspoken Republican members against Israel. He's being, obviously outfunded by Ed Gallerin. And now it's looking like Thomas Massie could actually lose. He's very popular with Gen Z and millennials, and even Gen X, but it's the boomers and the silent generation that are really for Gallerin. So the split makes it very interesting. We'll have to see. This primary is also today, Tuesday, May 19th, whenever you're seeing this. So we'll have to see how it goes. And I'm sure we'll be covering that in the coming days. But that's going to do it for me. I'm Iago Lashua. Have a great day. Be sure, if you like this video, to leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel, and also leave a comment. I would love to hear your thoughts down below. But that's going to do it for me. Have a great day. Goodbye.